Joining us now is the president of Apna Ghar Senior Care. It is Shaista Kazmi with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate having you on. How are you? How's your team at Apna Ghar Senior Care?
We're doing great. We're doing great. Today is actually a holiday for the Muslim community. It celebrates actually the end of the Hajj.
Yes.
So a few of our caregivers have taken off. A few of our staff is off as well. But as usual, I'm working, so no worries there.
Well, happy holiday to you and your team. We appreciate all that you're doing in the community, that your staff is doing in the community, and wish them a much-deserved day off. Wish them well on a much-deserved day off. For those who are not familiar, what does Apna Ghar provide to seniors in our community?
So Apna Ghar is actually the first senior care agency which serves the needs of elderly ethnic minorities, actually in the United States. Of course, just being from Michigan, I started a company here. And what we do is we offer culturally similar caregivers to our clients. However, with that being said, we also are bringing with us our cultural values of respecting, acknowledging, and valuing our seniors, and allowing them to age in place with dignity and respect. Our home base here is in West Bloomfield, and we've been providing senior care to various clients and various families since 2014.
Culture is so important to everybody's lives. The way that you are raised, the culture that you take to heart, and the values that you hold are so critical to happiness in general life, especially for seniors. How does your organization incorporate these variety of cultures we have in metropolitan Detroit and in the West Bloomfield area, and tailor the care to the patient specifically, based on what may be cultural norms in one culture versus another, and providing this critical care?
So with that being said, caregiving is a common cultural thread for
Yes.
us all. All of us, whatever background you're from, whatever socioeconomic class you're from. I mean, caregiving is common within all. The same stresses, the same issues are common within each and every group. However, with elderly ethnic minorities, the issue that we have seen and that we are trying to address is that there is a lot of social isolation, a lot of depression that can occur because they do not feel related to, they do not feel acknowledged by having, caregivers who may not be from the same cultural background as themselves. So, with Michigan being such a huge melting pot, we have caregivers who are from, our Arabic background. There are caregivers who are from Indian background. They can speak Hindi, Urdu, Gujarati, Punjabi, because India has many states, especially even in the Arabic, the Middle Eastern background as well. There's different dialects. Just because they speak Arabic doesn't mean that somebody from Morocco will understand when somebody's from Lebanon. So there was a lot of different kind of tweaks that we had to do with the company of finding culturally similar caregivers to our clients, and then offering culturally competent programs as well. We have felt that caregivers who are from other countries, even if let's say they're not from the same state or same province as their client, having an immigrant background has been very helpful to them as well. And that is what we have done. We've tried to help alleviate the social isolation, depression that commonly occurs within elderly ethnic minorities.
This is so amazing that you provide this service, but the healthcare industry in general is having a hard time finding employees. How are you and your team doing on that front?
So that's very true. And one of the things that when I first started the company, to be honest with you, I didn't even know where I could find caregivers who would be of cultural background, like similar cultural backgrounds, even as myself, because the whole process to start the company was out of a personal reason. My mother-in-law was living with me. My father became, diagnosed with a horrible neurodegenerative disease. And knowing from, having a medical background, I knew that he would require care down the line. But to even get care in the home at the time before me starting this company was really difficult with my mother-in-law. So when I started the company, what we did is we offered free CNA and home health aid training courses to a lot of the women in our community so that we could train them, so that when I started the company, we would have kind of a huge pool of employees to choose from. But with COVID, a lot of the caregivers were reluctant to come out of the home, because of the exposure that they had with their client. But one of the things that I did was that I, reassured that they would have to get COVID testing, as with our clients as well, and that there would be one client to one caregiver. So that way we would be able to do a contact type of tracing, so that we would know that if the client or the caregiver has been exposed to COVID. But yes, we've had issues in March and April of having the caregivers come out to the home. But with, as, kind of hesitation has gone down a bit, reassurance from the company as well. Oakland County gave a great kit for us to start back, that we're back in business. And that was very helpful to the aides. It gave them a lot of reassurance as well. So that has been very beneficial to us. But it's, again, reassurance. And again, contact tracing, that, listen, your aide and your client is just one-on-one care. We're not taking on multiple caregivers to clients in order to reassure the spread of COVID. And we've been very lucky. We've been, even with March, with the COVID cases coming up, we were very lucky where we had zero issues with COVID transmission. So, we're really blessed for that.
Shaista Kazmi with us. She is the president of Apna Ghar Senior Care, with us on the Oakland County MegaCast throughout the Oakland County community on a variety of TV and radio stations. And so caregiving has been absolutely critical during the COVID-19 pandemic, and from a variety of sources, especially considering the issues that we've seen happen with senior living facilities and with and with nursing home facilities and their relation to COVID-19. You mentioned that you are regularly testing caregivers and testing patients to track potential outbreaks with your clientele and with your staff. In a situation where somebody, a caregiver, is going to test positive for COVID-19, what adjustments can your organization make at that point to continue to provide the same care to the patient while also continuing to provide them care from somebody that understands their culture and their backgrounds at the same time?
So there always has to be a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G with business. You always have to have something like that. So what we did was that if we, God forbid, had a client, a caregiver or a client test positive for COVID, what we would do is we pull them out. Of course, they have a 2-week isolation. We have to get both, unfortunately, the caregiver and the client tested for COVID again. And then we do have enough caregivers that can be placed in the home, and the family is notified and told that, this is the situation. The caregiver may not be from the same background as the client. However, there is somebody who is culturally competent who would be able to provide the care. And with that being said, because of COVID, a lot of families were actually lax on having somebody who could actually speak their language. They were just grateful to have a caregiver come into the home, because many of our clientele we're still working, let's say, in the hospitals or in other, organizations where they were not allowed to have time off or work from home. So they had to make sure that they had somebody who was in their home. There was no choice for that. And so we were very careful on making sure that if, God forbid, there was such an issue, we would have a backup. But the protocols were already placed. And, having a medical background helped a lot, because we were following this. This came to fruition like in March, but we had been watching this since January. And my husband, having a medical background, just kept telling me, you better be ready because this thing is not going to this thing is going to blow up big time. And it did, unfortunately.
How have you and your organization been in actually being able to get supplies? I know it's a little bit better now, but there is still a shortage on some things like Lysol and things of that nature.
And again, because, of my background and my husband being in the medical field as well, he was like, you better start ordering this stuff now. And this is back in January. So we had supplies of like Lysol disinfectant spray. We also had the wipes. And we were also able to get gloves and PPE for our aides. And what I've done now is that we actually have a friend out in Los Angeles who had a fashion business, which because of COVID, he had to kind of shut things down. So now he's in the mask producing, gown producing, a lot of the PPE. So we were able to get our shipments directly from him, goggles and 95 masks. We have face shields for them. And I've made sure, because with the impending second surge, we just wanted to make sure that we were prepared, because it's far better to be prepared than, be scrambling at the last minute. So we were lucky in that sense. And we had been following it. I mean, we were watching, things, not just on the news, but just with, medical journals, stating that this thing is coming, it's on its way. And then we just prepared ourselves. And getting back to your question about the nursing homes and assisted livings, unfortunately, yes. I mean, the COVID unfortunately spread in a lot of those places. We do a lot of staffing for local senior care, local assisted livings. The 2 assisted livings that we do have contracts with, thank God, thankfully, they were also very vigilant and they had 0 issues with COVID. But it was really touch and go, especially with a lot of facilities in New York and Seattle. It was really scary for families. Even to this day, a lot of families can't go and see their loved one. Unfortunately, that's the situation that they're in. But we were very careful. We, knock on wood, we're really happy about how we handled the situation.
Shaista Kazmi with us. She is the president of Apna Ghar Senior Care, with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Just a couple more minutes with you before we need to let you go. Anything else that's important for our audience to know about what you're providing, about providing quality senior care and caregiving services, or anything else that you would like to touch on today in this interview?
Well, I think one of the last points I want to make is I started this company because, I was in a similar situation. I mean, my father was unfortunately diagnosed with multiple systemic atrophy. My mother-in-law was living with me at the time. I had 3 small kids, and I was doing research actually at Providence and Providence Park in neurosciences. And, I saw the need for culturally competent care. But the other thing that I noticed was that local senior care companies, because of the fact that, they can kind of tap into kind of some emotional strings of families, knowing that they could charge $20 to $25 an hour to have somebody come into the home to provide their loved one with companionship or companion care, elder or senior care. And I thought they were charging an arm and a leg, and I said to myself at that point, if I ever get to a point in my life where I could start a company, I would start a company that could offer, affordable prices with quality care. Our charges are very, comparatively are very low, because I don't think families should be reprimanded for allowing their loved one to be, to age in place with dignity and respect. I think that, all families should afford care. Unfortunately, there's still not, so there's not, something written in, type of our culture, no other type of resources, long-term care insurance. A lot of families have not bought into it. And I think, in the next presidential election, I think it would be great to see one of the candidates come out and talk about how much, what they can do to, help just all seniors in general. I think Joe Biden does have a, kind of a long-term care type of plan for families. And I think it's a really important issue because, as I said, cultural caregiving is, a common cultural thread that we all are facing, and I think it's an issue that really needs to be um, touched upon. And again, we're here to serve the community. It's just not all elderly ethnic minorities; it's everyone in the community. We have great caregivers who are doing this as a passion of theirs. They're there to care for the elderly. It's just not a job for them. They're not just clocking in, clocking out on their phones. They're there to help your loved ones. So, that's what we're all about.
Well, Shaista, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us.
Appreciate it. Shaista Kazmi with us. She is the president of Apna Ghar Senior Care with us on the Oakland County Megacast.